And we'll unmute and welcome everybody. Hello, Ken.
Hello, Thomas. How are you tonight?
I am hanging in there. I'm trying to keep warm. How about you?
I'm doing well. I've actually been cleaning the house. My wife's been gone for 2 weeks, and she's coming home tomorrow. And I got to try to get the house clean. Can't find a backhoe, but I'll do the best I can.
As long as there's not too much glitter left over from all the dancers you have.
Exactly right. Exactly right. How about yourself? You've been traveling this week.
Yes. The railroad has sent me out of town, so that's why we kind of got a short notice for a show tonight. I'm sorry we weren't more prepared. We have some wonderful guests, and if you're in chat and have something to show us on your workbench, I'll post the link to join us later. But we have some wonderful members of the Twin Cities Division join us to help fill some dead air time, maybe.
That's what you meant by wonderful guests. I was waiting for those guys to show up.
Well, they'll show up. They'll show up here. So I'll see if I can welcome everybody. Those who said hi, that I know you're here. So we got so far Dan's Model Railroad Journey. Welcome. Roy Eltham, all the way from San Diego. Roy, send some heat up here, okay? I don't know what the temperature is there, but it was minus 35 where I was this morning. Stephen from Wigwagging Workshop. Robert Thomas is here. John Whithouse, welcome. Pennsylvania Northwestern, if you're new, welcome. Tim D is in the house. George Sinos. Dan Linfors, our narrow gauge guy. Brett Isaacs, welcome. Welcome on Facebook there. Doug Ziegler, welcome also on Facebook. Cameron and Tim Hamilton. And if I miss anyone else, let me know. And Ken and I will welcome them. And I'll bring on some of our guests here, and then we'll talk about, because they have some things to say about all the upcoming events too. We'll go through the shows, and then we'll talk about the Modelers Retreat and the convention. And we have Mr. Greg Dahl with us. We have Ken Borowski, and we have David Hamilton, and Randy is with us too. So we almost got the Brady Bunch going. You guys can say hello.
How's everybody doing?
Let me unmute Randy here. Or Randy can unmute himself. Randy unmutes that.
Hello.
And
Would that be the Brady Bunch or Hollywood Squares?
I think we're on pretty much 6, so it's match game. So
there you go.
It's kind of match game. So
How
we'll
old
go
are
through
you?
some events here, and if you guys have any events, please, let us know, and we'll feature them on here every Friday. And like I said, so send us a flyer, a date, time, all the information. And Ken, I'll let you take this one. The TNR annual convention is coming up.
It is coming up in May. It's going to be great. Tremendous 3 days of activities. There'll be some operations. There'll be some layout tours. There'll be clinics. There'll be the display room, the celebration room. We have one room that's going to be set up where it'll be pop-up clinics and pop-up events. So really, you're going to have a hard time getting bored, because I really think that from 9 in the morning till 10 at night, it'll be nonstop. So and it's $35 for the whole event, which is a terrific value. And don't let me forget the Chinese auction, or whatever they call it now. Lots of great door prizes. So hotel's giving us the same rate, $109 a night. And if you go there and go to the front desk and say you're a friend of Split Rock, you'll get the hourly rate.
Yes. So yeah, you can email Greg Smith on that in registration. And when we get one, we'll post it on here and post it on the Facebook group.
We'll do that.
Okay, then when anybody going to Texas, it sounds nice right now. Ken is going.
I am.
I heard you're renting a B&B with 12 rooms, so we can all flop there.
Well, actually, I'm getting the suite at the Gaylord, because that way I can, as long as I can have somebody push the button for the right room, I can find my way home.
You can find your way home. Yes. So Texas in August. I won't comment on that, but should be. They have a lot to offer there. New Berlin show, April 23rd. It says new location, more vendors. New Berlin, Wisconsin. Fun little drive across the beautiful state of Wisconsin. North Metro Club's coming up. Who's been to that? Now, I know I seen Greg Dahl. You've been to that show, right? What do you think?
Now, that's a great show, and plus they have the clubs right next door. You get in, to go down and view their layout. It's a beautiful layout. I mean, it's enormous by any stretch of the imagination. So,
yeah, is there any word on when they might be doing another like open house type op session like they did a couple of months ago? Does anybody know anything about that?
Ken, you heard anything, or Randy?
I've not, and I was hoping I'd hear something from Joe, but he's busy getting his son resettled. But I'll follow up on that, and I'll make sure it's posted on the Facebook page for the podcast.
Yeah, because that last one that they did, that was just a blast. That was fun. I'd really recommend anybody that hasn't been over there to do that.
Yep.
Randy and Ken being on the board, and I have talked. We're looking for a liaison to the North Metro Club because they're 100% NMRA club, and we would love to have one of their members at least attend the board meetings. If not, if we could find a position for them to facilitate those operation sessions and work sessions and everything like that. So, if anybody in chat is a member, please contact us. We'd like to go back again. I know Ken was there. I think all of us were there. Randy, did you make it to the op session? I don't know. I think everybody else got there.
Yeah, I was there.
Okay, yeah, I think I
was down on the Duluth docks over by Ken.
Yeah, that's right. He and I were not stuck, but he and I were placed over by Duluth so we could make the least amount of trouble.
So that's why I never saw you. That layout is so big, where I was dispatching, I could only, I think I saw Greg and Dan operating on the branch line. I didn't even, good thing for cameras. So
yeah, we were there. The yard was right across from us, so we didn't have much traffic with the dispatch.
So they have so many jobs that don't even need a dispatcher. So also Madison's coming up February 18th, 19th, the Mad City Show, always a good show.
It is.
And they're giving away train sets. Well, maybe we'll get together and carpool a road trip and see how many quick trips there are between here and Madison. And then don't forget to visit our friends at Scale and see what they've got new going on. All righty. So we had some newcomers come in. Heath from Humanity Junction joined us. Welcome, Heath. Sven is here. Dan Head says evening all. And I saw somebody back there wanted to, let's see if my computer allows me to scroll back, or is it going to fight me all night? Probably fight me all night. Dan Linfors wanted to go to the Texas. Oh, there it was. He wanted. So he's going to take Greg for the block here on Hollywood Squares, but we need 3 more people. So maybe I'll post the link. And so with that, we'll go to what's on your workbench or your layout. Does anybody have something they want to show or talk about? Who wants to go first? Anybody? Don't be shy.
I've got a few things that I'm working on, but I don't have anything in front of me to show you, but I can kind of give you the list of stuff. I think we all have lists of stuff, but working on a couple.
Oops. There he is. We lost him.
40-foot box car and a flat car, maintenance away type stuff based on a couple photographs I found recently. Since I built my Fremo modules about a year ago, I'm still working on a little bit of scenery, but I did a bunch of custom wood chip cars for those. So now I need to make a wood chip like a semi trailer with the open top trailer in the back for hauling wood chips. So I'm working on that. For the Madison show coming up, because I'll be going down to the Madison show with the Modutrack Club, which is an N-scale club. I've got a Challenger that I'm working on. I need to weather that up, and I need to weather up a bunch of 2-bay coal cars And I've got a couple Milwaukee Road pieces of equipment I got to finish up too for that show. Yeah, so I got a list of stuff here. I've been working on a program for the modelers meet, which has been taking up a bunch of my time, but that I think I got that figured out now. So I should be able to get some of these projects taken care of here in the next couple of weeks.
Well, that brings up a good point to Ken. I'll throw it to you. We didn't mention the modelers retreat. If you want to give a date and time and extortion fee we have for that.
Well, the fee is $15 for both days, and the dates are I was so concentrating on other things. 9th and 10th, or it's Friday, Saturday, so that's probably 10th and 11th. And we'll start out Friday night with a social time. You can set up your displays. The free mobile guys will be setting up. They're going to set up a larger display than they had last time, so that's going to be fun. And if you'll recall, they did have they got it set up Friday night. Of course, you get to watch that. They're going to do a clinic on how to build a Fremo and show you all the under the hood. And then a Saturday there'll be a lot of operations on that. So come and plan on operating with it. Saturday there'll be a full schedule of clinics, and of course tables and tables full of displays. I've been really excited to hear about all the different people that are bringing things up. That's going to be a lot of fun to see. Again, it's just going to be a tremendous time. Right.
So that's March 10th and 11th.
Yep.
The church out in Plymouth.
Yep.
Friday night's very social. Of course, Saturday's all social. Ken Borowski's going to have a clinic. Joe Binish is lining up some great clinics.
Yep.
And then also, so February 9th coming up, Randy, we have the Zoom meeting. The Twin Cities Division has a Zoom meeting coming on.
Right.
And Randy, do we have a guest for that, or is it going to be super secret?
Let's see. I published the latest on the Facebook page, not on Discord. Can't I published it, but I can't remember the name offhand. What was the name, Ken?
Graham Stockfield.
Graham Stockfield, yes. From it's a pre-recorded.
It is
actually, and
yep.
It's on weathering on the. Caught me off guard here.
I'm sorry.
Dave Hamilton, I'm going to you next. For
same railroad that you model, isn't it, Ben?
Yeah. Well, let me fill in a little bit because I just
right?
Yeah, because I interviewed Graham and we recorded it and so he went through the weathering technique, and Randy and I talked about that ahead of time. Like Randy, he lives down in so far out of town that he's on a string in a tin can. Isn't that what you always say? But
yeah, we're kind of a hole here.
Yeah, so we recorded it in advance, and so we will play that, and then Graham will be on the Zoom with us to answer questions, and that's really going to be a lot of fun. And what I think is really neat about that is we're getting a clinic from Australia, but the second part is Graham is going to come to the Thousand Lakes Region Convention, and during that convention, in our pop-up workshop room, he's going to set up and weather some cars. So we'll actually make it so that you can bring some cars along, and you can weather the roofs with them. So that's going to be a lot of fun, and it'll be a tremendous another tremendous event for the Thousand Lakes Region Convention.
Hey, Ken, I have a question for you. Is that Fremo setup you talked about? Is that an HO or an N scale Fremo?
The one at the church modelers meet is a HO one.
Okay.
Very good. And then Dave Hamilton, you're one of the hosts, and I think Greg is, and we're trying to squeeze one of the Kens into hosting to the operators retreat. Dave Hamilton, can you tell us how that went last time and what we're looking forward to coming up?
We did an op session here at the for that retreat last year. I don't even remember how many people showed up. I think 5 or 6 or 7. So we haven't worked out any details for the retreat, but we're also going to try to do some op sessions at the Twin City, at the Thousand Lakes Region Convention in May. We've been advertising that, and I've got 4 or 5 layouts that are interested in hosting. And so far, proof, we've got 10 or 11 people registered for that TLR convention, including a few people from Australia. So the registrations are starting to roll in. So don't waste too much time. We don't want to, we don't want you to miss anything. And then, Dave, what are you working on? Well, I'm finally putting in a river, and here's a picture of it, because it's not much of a picture, but the space has been on the railroad for 25 years. And thanks to my nephew, Tim Hamilton, who's logged in there, I was finally motivated to work on it and actually make it look like a river. So I've been experimenting, added some embankment material. I painted it, and I put some ground cover in there, and we're adding some rocks along the riverbank. They're not glued down yet, but I might actually, by Monday, have something that really looks like a river in the space that's existed for at least 25 years. So, I figured sooner or later I would get motivated enough to do something in that part of the railroad. The bridge has been there, and the gap has been there, but it's just been plaster or whatever. I don't even remember what I used for a base on the thing, but it's actually starting to look like something now. So
is that the Mississippi then?
It's actually the Wisconsin River on the edge of Wyalusing State Park, just south or just east of Prairie du Chien, Wisconsin. And the railroad goes to a single track when it crosses the river, and it always has. That's the Burlington, for those who don't know what I'm talking about. And so it's actually a pretty neat scene. Unfortunately, it's not right where you first walk into the railroad room, but that's not my problem, and it works. It's actually, I think it's going to look pretty nice by the time I'm done with it. So
you finally got the brave enough after 25 years. I saw Greg's reaction to that. That's pretty good.
Well, it's really because my nephew is building an N-scale railroad, and he's about a year into it. And we watch these boomer diorama videos, which are, just so cool to watch. And so so Tim put a river in the railroad, and he sent me pictures of it a couple weeks ago. And I thought, how can this happen where this guy starts building something a year ago, and I've got this area that's been there for 25 years with just a bridge. So I don't think I had any choice. These young whippersnappers kind of, they push it to the brink. So I had to do something. I couldn't just let it go.
Well, I'll make you got that picture still on your phone there.
Oh yeah.
All right, I'll give you the solo layout here, and you can hold it up.
Okay, just let me
see what 25 years of experience did for us. So.
Well, that's what it looked like about an hour ago. I went downstairs, and I know there's like a lot of reflection in it, but you can kind of get the idea of how it's turning out. So, and it's got a ways to go yet, but I think it's a lot closer right now than it was this morning. So I'm rocking and rolling as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
So.
Hey Tom, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
When's that operators retreat, and how does the person get signed up for that? I'm just curious.
Good question. The operators retreat will be April 21st, Friday night is a social gathering. You get assigned layouts. And then on the 22nd, you will operate 2 layouts, at least 2 layouts.
Okay.
And you can sign up at the Twin Cities Division by sending an email to our email account, which is tcdnmra@gmail.com. I'll put a link up there. And we have a small fee to kind of cover some stuff for the layout owners and some snacks. We tried to have 24 people last time, but due to some conflicts, we had 21. So we're hoping to have more. And correct me if I was wrong, Dave, or anybody on this, we went from 9 to 11 and then 1 to 3. So there was a lunch break in there. So you operated for at least 2 hours, had a lunch break, and then you had another 2 hours on a different layout. Okay. Is that how it went?
Yeah, I think it was more like 9:30 to 11:30, but what's a half an hour one way or the other? So,
but we'll have a sign-up sheet at the Modelers Retreat, and we'll also start posting that more and more once we get through the Modelers Retreat. Ken and Joe and I'll take care of that. And what the Operators Retreat is for if you've never operated and you want to try it, this is perfect. Or if you're a good operator and you're kind of the lone wolf guy and you want to break into some other operating groups, like a bunch of us would like to break into Ken Borowski's N-Scale group because he keeps posting pictures of these fabulous N-Scale layouts that haul red dirt. So
yeah, there's a couple of them out there. So
there's a couple of them out there. So there's more people I can get to join my red dirt mafia. And I don't know, Ken Zeska, what did we charge last year for that?
We charged $15, and part of that was because we rented a room for Friday night. In fact, that's what it all was. It covered that room. So we may try to find. We've talked about finding another spot to meet. Again, it's a social. So if you're coming from out of town, like one person came from Marshall, and you don't want to come down Friday night, we'll arrange that so you don't have to worry about that. But I can't imagine it's certainly not going to be over $15. But the whole idea is just to make sure it breaks even.
Yeah, we have more layouts and more operator spots than there are people who want to do this. So if we get more than 21, we have other layouts we can add on.
Right.
In fact, in this go around, the split rock is not even going to be in it unless we keep getting more and more people. So, because I'll be running it and running from layout to layout. So,
well, I believe my layout's going to be one of the operating ones. So I was just curious how a person signs up for all that stuff. But you said that'll all come out eventually.
Right.
So, okay.
Yep. I think we did that through our Facebook group and through emails. And then we responded back and made sure that they wanted to do all that. 24 people in my garage. Well, in my garage, yes, but this is my basement, and we'd move a lot of iron ore then, but that'd be fun. So, we got complaints here. Oh no, it was a lot of fun. So Dan Lindfors works for the Minnesota Commercial Railroad, so he's a real railroader. And he's a narrow gauge modeler, but he liked the Q and lacrosse. So, and Dave's yard, Dave, your yard's not easy, is it? I mean,
it can be busy,
workable.
And I think we'll just keep the lights off and make it a little tougher.
Yeah. Well, I think he's told you to put him in there, didn't he? He said stick him in a bad spot.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking you're correct about that. So.
Yeah. It's always Heath.
Always Heath. So we'll take a little pause here. I'll welcome some newcomers I see in the chat. I see IMMRO Eric is here from Arizona. You can send some heat up this way. Patrick Halsey joined us. Chicago, Denver, and Northern, welcome for joining us. And of course, Mr. William Sampson just snuck in. And William just started dropping his new video series. I don't know what season this is, season 42. But William, you're a moderator, so please put the link to your videos in the chat because your videos are fabulous. And
I just watched that newest one today. It was really, really good.
Yeah, always good. Wonderful editing, wonderful content, wonderful sound. And so, please put that in there. Season 42. Okay, he's on there. But So who's got anything else on their workbench? Randy, how's the bridge? You got the bridge in front of us?
It's actually sitting right here. Start putting the cross braces on the end.
Let me make you the star here. There we go. Let me get Dan out of the way.
Yeah,
So
just
explain what you're doing for the newcomers.
this is N-scale bridge I'm doing for the master model or was it master builder structure certificate, or part of it anyway. It's the second one I'll be having evaluated hopefully at the regional convention. It's all styrene, individual strips. It's hard navigating this thing backwards.
You see
You
that?
see here
You
the-
could build the Hellgate Bridge now for that. So, what's the prototype, Randy?
It's a bridge on the lake subdivision just west or just east of Grand Rapids, Minnesota. It's
Okay.
built in 1899, and then they had a bridge strengthening project in like 1929 that added that center truss on there. You can see that. It's kind of a unique feature about the whole thing. It's got this center truss in here that was added after the bridge was made.
Is that
Like-
a great northern thing? Because
Yeah, I think it
I
is.
see on Dave Ramirez's layout in St. Cloud, the Great North, they have a bridge within a bridge.
Yep, there's a great big one out west someplace too. Somewhere on Powder River, maybe. I don't remember. I saw a picture of it, but I don't remember exactly where it is. And then there's another one not too far from here. I think that was a Great Northern one too. I think what happened was that they got caught up in that pre-heavy steam era, and they're pushing a lot of track through the areas and going through as cheap as they could, or what they thought was going to be sufficient. But then all of a sudden, the locomotives started getting heavier and more traffic, so they just had to go through, and rather than rebuilding all the bridges, they just started adding extra trusses and reinforcement. And
Okay, very cool. Cool. I'm sure that'll merit out some points. Dave, what do you think about that bridge on the judging?
It's pretty small. It's hard to see it from here.
Can you see the rivets? Okay. Greg, you got anything on your workbench?
Well, I finished up a couple of those buildings. I think you'd shown one of them on the Facebook page. I'll see if I can get this up in front of the camera. This is a Rock Island SC40-2 out there and ready to roll. I'm basically just weathering it. Here's an example, and I'm trying not to touch it too much, but here's an example of a one that's not touched. So it's kind of hard to see without photos, but just trying to weather those up without destroying them.
What are you using for weathering?
I started out with Tamiya's panel line wash to get the panel lines, and then also like the grills and stuff like that. And then I'm using pan pastels for powders instead of the other stuff. But I don't think it really matters. I've got AIM weathering powders, which I think somebody else has now. And I know William uses another brand, but I honestly don't think it matters which kind of powders you're using. I don't really see a lot. I'm not good enough to notice the difference in any of them.
So how'd you like the taco sauce on that, the Tamiya panel wash?
It actually did for what it's intended. Like, I mean, with all the doors and the rivets and stuff, it works great for stuff like that. I tried using it like on the cab roof as like just a general, dirty the whole top of the thing. Everything I've seen from some of these Rock 40-2 photos I've seen, there's just this layer of grime at the top. But it doesn't really work like for a big flat surface like that. So, I mean, take it for what it is. It's a panel line wash. So it's for getting in those, recesses and stuff like that.
So, and now you also asked a question, maybe anybody in chat or other guys that come, the Rock Island that had that logo on the nose. Want to hold it up again? I'll make your screen big.
Yeah.
And you wanted to ghost that, right?
Yeah, so you can see, so the Rock Island has a logo. Oh, this probably is not going to focus very well. Right on the nose, there's one. I think it's on the. No, there's just the one on the nose. And from every photo I've seen of these things at the end of their life, in fact, I've got one printed. I don't know if it'll show up, but that bottom photo, you can see that logo is just completely ghosted out. I mean, the logo is, the outline is there, but it's mainly white. Some of them aren't quite that bad, but I've been trying to figure out. I was thinking about using something to try to remove the paint, but then that would just leave the yellow underneath. And from what I've seen, that it's more of a white. So the other thought would be to put some sort of mask on it, use a Cricut cutter or something to create a mask, and then try to use like white paint or something. But I was afraid that was just going to look like paint over the top. So I haven't quite figured out, and that's why I haven't done it yet, what I'm going to do there.
Yeah, I think that fading is one of the toughest things you can do. I hear Dan says use a white powder. I wonder if you dab it in there.
Yeah, the powder would certainly look better than paint, I think. Because to me, the paint would just look, a lot of times when I see people weathering stuff with paint, it looks like they've just painted over the top of it. So, I mean, especially with the powder too, if it doesn't work, I can always just take it right off.
Yeah. Well, it's a Rock Island engine, so no matter what you do to it.
I was weathering some. I was looking at weathering a gray 4427, I think, hopper of theirs. I pulled up photos on the internet of all of the gray hoppers. I think it was in Rail Archive Pictures, and I started going through them of cars that looked similar, at least. And it dawned on me after 8 photos, all 8 cars had different font lettering in different applications. Some it's Rock and then Island underneath. Sometimes it's Rock Island spelled out the long way. And every single one had almost a different font.
Well, at least they spelled the name right.
That's a whole other story when it comes to their engines and they start swapping out doors.
Yeah. Hey, Greg, do you think there's any chance that somebody might have stripped the decal off, towards the end of the time people were stealing memorabilia? And then all
they had 10 of these SD40-2s. Yeah. And I pulled photos of almost all 10, and on 8 of them, those things are, and like I said, on some of them, it's not quite worn. Like that one I showed you was like, it was completely gone. On other ones, it looks like I think the decal was just peeling apart.
Okay.
It was just literally falling apart. But, and again, so if you've got poor decaling skills, maybe the Rock Island is what you want to model.
You put it on crooked, it's still good. Is that what you're saying there?
You put it on upside down, you'd be fine.
Down, yeah. If only the Rock Island haul iron ore, then my stuff would look good. So, all right. So Doug has an idea here. Clear non-scotch tape or blue planers tape and chip off the decal in bits. I think it's more faded than chipped, but I might give it a try. Yeah,
I'm beginning to think. So, what are those things? Are they like? Does that like that Scotch-Lite 3M? Is that what like or some of those logos are? Like, what's on a UP engine today? What is?
Yeah, just Scotch-Lite cut out letters.
So I'm wondering if what happened is, they put it on there and it was on there for 3, 4, 6 years, and then finally just fell off. So what you've got is the underneath paint, and it's either not as faded or, it doesn't quite match the yellow paint that was put on the nose in the first place, right? So that's what I'm thinking has occurred.
Yeah, that yellow looked really faded too.
Yeah, on those it did. On some of them, on a couple of them I got from the 80s, the yellow is actually pretty good. So I don't know what the difference is on, it's like every unit is unique.
Yeah. I know William on a couple of his videos did some fades, and I liked it right up to the part where he put the hopper in a tub of water. I don't know how that one went. But I was like, okay, I think I'll try a different method than the submarine approach. Okay, Dan says one picture I saw looks like it was pulled off and pulled some of the paint off with it. Maybe everybody walks by the nose.
Yep.
You know, John Whithouse can say, and Daniel Linford, everybody catch anything on there. You know, that's a good weathering point is if you're making an engine dirty, like on Greg's SD40s, hold them up again, Greg. Hold them up and then show the conductor side, the front. Yeah. So the nose there would be clean because that's when the conductor walks out and his coat rubs on it. And behind the engineer, where the other door is, the side wall would be clean when the engineer walks out and he rubs on that. If you ever look at the prototype, it's kind of an interesting thing. Yeah. John says, yeah. So it's kind of a neat detail, and it's one of those, if you know, you know. But you know, that little nose piece and behind the cab is always clean, and then where that decal goes, everybody hits that pointy nose on an EMD. You know. So Dan says something. He's already got the 4792 in room. That must be a Rock Island number or something there.
Yeah.
So, Ken Zeska, you're doing lighting on your layout. Do you want to drag your LED lights up or just want to talk?
Yeah, let me do that. Oh, that's not how I want to do it.
I'll make you
no, I know how to do it now. There you go. So again, like Dave was saying, this hidden storage track has been under here for 25 years, but there was never any lighting under it. So I just used the track you see on the right to run through it. The two tracks to the left didn't. Now you have the capability of having an 18-foot train, and then on the shorter siding you see that's about a 10-foot train. And as I'm getting into operations, I'm seeing the advantage of having staged trains because my operations getting bigger and my yard is not big enough to support all that. So the ability to have 3 trains spotted here is going to be kind of nice. So these are LED strips. They have one transformer on one end, and then they just clip together, and really easy peasy. I've also bought for about $19 a continuous coil of LEDs. I saw that up at Shane Lambert's house. And that again is really neat. You just plug into one end with the transformer and it'll go 35 feet. So and you can cut the pieces and then splice them. So that's really pretty easy. I use daylight, and I've heard people say, gee, I want to use soft light, I want to use this, I want to use that to get the right color combination. But I think as you get older, your eyes get tired, and the more light you have, the better. And so I've gone to all daylight and figured, well, that then I'll just paint things to match. And so I'm very, very happy with that. So that's what I've got. Boom. There you go, sir. Stops. I don't know what. Okay. Do I have to do something to? Stop screen. There we go.
What was your clearance in between the lower deck and your track and that picture you had shown there?
At the shortest end, it's 6 inches, and at the tallest end, it's 10.
Okay.
So I'm not going to have or taller TOFCs hit it. And part of the reason I can't even begin to tell you part of the reason why it's so tall. It just is that tall. So it's, and it was tall enough I could put my hands in there and work, not tall enough that I can put my head in there and really see it. That's what the camera was for.
Well, that's what I was wondering, if you've got enough room in there to reach in there and, put a car on the track and stuff.
I do.
Like you got plenty of room. So.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I do. Yep. But again, one of the good things about S scale is it never derails.
Plus, there's lots of room back there to grab it, right? Because it's
Yeah. What are you guys laughing about?
So Tim says Tamiya X21 flat base will do a fade. And Boomer had a video. If anybody's got a link to that video who's a moderator, please put it up.
I'll check that out later. That'd be interesting.
Yeah, I guess that Boomer does wonderful diorama work and scenery like that. So, all right, I guess it's time for me to fess up here. So, on my layout, I had a number of these structures. Now, these are basically foam core that I hot glued together and computer program to buy bricks and windows, and I printed this out. There's nothing on the back. And, you just put in the windows where you want in the door, and I tried to make them all look different. And so I had, all these odd kind of buildings. And through the computer program, here's like a wood one with a wood door. Just as fillers, no one ever cared. You got a total of 4 of them here. It's a neat little program. And then I've been slowly replacing them with buildings made by Greg Dahl, because I'm that kind of guy. So Greg and I have come to a deal of downtown deco kits, because I only need the front. And so Greg can have the rest. And so this is what he made me. This is absolutely gorgeous.
No, it's really good.
Awnings on there. Roof. And so you see the photo and the Kodak. So it's 1969. So we got the photo place. And then this is a Furrier. You can't see the sign. I don't know if you can see in the window, but that's a Furrier. No protest because it's 1969. Makes and stores furs. Then you have the agate bay, the rock shop for the tourists. Come up there always getting the Lake Spear agates. And of course the Buster Brown shoes with even the sign in the window. Anybody want to fess up how old they are and they go to Buster Brown? So I'll let Greg kind of talk about this, what he made this out of. I'll go back to our layout here. So the sides are wood, Greg?
Yeah, they're actually MDF boards. So like Tom said, so the kit, we just bought a kit at the flea market. It was $30 for, I think that's Adams Avenue 2. And so Tom said, I got all my buildings are really close together. So there's really not even space between them on the layout. So he says, I really only need the fronts. So I said, well, I'll build the building for you. And then I took the other 3 sides and I actually made a building for myself on my layout. And if you lower it to show the roof a little bit, you'll notice that, so the sides and the back, you'll see a little bit of them when the roof is on, because that's just the way the downtown deco kits work. So I made it out of MDF, the last 3 sides, the front, the sides and the back. But then if I just painted MDF, you'd notice a difference between the plaster front and the side. So what I did, I just put a skim coat of patching plaster on the wood. And then that way I figured, and I painted the sides a little bit and I just put a wash on them. So I figured if somebody, if Tom had them maybe, a half inch apart or something, you might be able to see the side, but it would just be, colored plaster. So it wouldn't really stick out. The whole point was to not look different from everything else on the layout.
I know, but look at the detail in the brick you get with those plaster. These downtown deco.
Yeah, those kits are really hard to screw up, and I've actually gotten comfortable enough now to start kit bashing them and stuff, so we can take parts of them off, or
You did a little bit of weathering there. And,
yeah. So and Tom asked, because the buildings on my layout, I've done several of these as well. The buildings on my layout are heavily weathered because I'm modeling 1985, but like Tom said, he's modeling 1969. So we went with the idea that the buildings probably would be in fairly decent shape.
Can you tell us how you made the awnings?
So that awning is really just scraps of styrene. I put together, cut out. It was actually a lot more work than I wanted it to be because I'm not that great a modeler. And then the roof part that came with the kit. There was some sort of and the wire itself came with the kit. Not the big roof, but the roof of the awning came with the kit.
So what do you use, texture paint on this roof?
Yeah, so that was the first time I tried that. Dan Dosa actually gave me an idea for that. It's that textured paint you can buy. It's just spray paint, and you buy it in the store. This was actually, I don't know if I didn't shake it up enough for it. That was actually supposed to be a dark brown, and it came out white. So I don't know if they forgot to put the pigment in it or what, but it gives a nice sort of gravel roof look to it.
Yeah, it's a showstopper. It's excellent. If you follow me on TikTok, I had to make a couple of videos on there about it.
What's
Yeah, David Hamilton wants to know where the fluoroscope machine is. You're old, Dave. You don't have to explain that. Is that the thing you put your foot in at Buster Brown?
Yep, you used to go to get shoes and you'd step up on this thing and it had like a greenish glow to it, and you could see the bones in your feet and whatnot, and kids would play around it, and we'd put our hands inside of it because it was like a low-level x-ray machine. And I think that they were eventually banned from the shoe stores. This was back in the 50s. So, but that it might account for some of my actions now. I'm not real sure. So.
Yeah, that's a killer building. That was just so well done. And I'll take like 10 more. No, I actually have. I'll look now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I probably have 10 or 11 of your structures already. So,
well, plus the bridge. So.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Plus the bridge, which was in a magazine.
That's how I got my name into a magazine.
You got your name in a magazine. I couldn't get Dosa's tunnel. There's a bunch of pictures that didn't get published in that article. I think I sent him 30 photos. So there was an agate bay and a bunch. Maybe he's saving them. I don't know. I know Heath went out to the East Coast show in Springfield, and my issue was already tossed aside, and the other one was out there. So Buster Brown. I see somebody had Buster Browns and a low-level X-ray. Okay. Oh, wait. Let me make David big. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, more yellow engines. Yeah.
There you go.
And Dwight got the foot X-ray at Sears on Lake Street. I can only imagine that. So,
Dwight must be older than dirt.
older than dirt.
Be careful, there's this guy.
So there's the boomer.
I'm
phase.
saying I did also, but
Well,
I know
okay.
Sears, so I'm old.
Lake Street wasn't paved when you went there, kid. It was just to ride the horse then from things like that. All right, so we have an infiltrator here. Welcome Mr. Dan Linfors on. And Dan, what do you got for us here tonight? You got a good narrow gauge project?
Yeah, I've got a stub turnout here I've been working on for my layout, or one of several. This is one of the stub turnouts I've been working on.
Ooh. Is that narrow gauge?
Yes, HON3.
What code?
55. So I'm the reason I'm doing this is because in Uray, which is what I'm modeling, you can see the turnouts there were all stub switches.
You want to explain what a stub switch is? No, that's no points, right?
So, yeah, let me show that picture again. Oops. The stub switch got an all point switch. It would be just a series of points moving back and forth to change direction. A stub switch, it's the rails coming in that slide over. Basically on a slide to move from one side to the other. And this was basically outlawed by the 1920s as far as new builds went. But
so how are you adapting the fast tracks jig for that? You're just not putting in the point rails?
They've actually got a document talking about how to do that. Here, I'll show a finished one here.
I think I would know.
So this is one I've got done except for the rails that move over. See how the end, it's just lines up with the rails here. But I still got to build the bottom ends of these. I've got 2 more of these top ends to build yet. So
that's amazing. So is that a narrow gauge thing for the Rio Grande? Is that
actually no. Most standard gauge railroads, if you look at any photos of the Transcontinental Railroad when it was being built, those were all stub switches back then. It was a very old thing. It was before point switches really came into vogue later on, but the stub switch is a very early thing. It was outlawed very early for many reasons, mostly maintenance, and also if you run through it, I'm sure, Tom, you know what I mean by that.
What?
You run through a stub switch, you're automatically on the ground. It's not like a point switch where you'll just run through it.
Yeah, I think the points you run through if you back up through them. So I think ask John Whithausen about that.
Yeah, yep.
So are all of the switches on your layout going to be stubs then?
In Ouray, yes. Whenever I extend up further up the branch, there will be point switches because basically south of Ridgeway on the Ouray branch, it was basically an 1880s railroad still living into the early 50s. But north of Ridgeway, it was all 65-pound rail. When you get to rail that size, stub switches don't really work anymore. Yeah. So you got to remember that in Ouray, most of the rail was 30 and 35-pound rail yet. So,
are you going to build dual gauge switches?
No, I want to build the rest of the branch, but by the time you get to Montrose, which was the standard gauge connection on this side of the Rio Grande, that'll probably just be represented by staging whenever I get that far.
Okay.
And I see William just said, what's the reason for having a stub switch? There's no real reason other than that was really the main switch in vogue at the time in the late 1800s. Like I said, if you look at any pictures of the standard gauge Transcontinental Railroad when it was being built, those were all stub switches at the time. But really the reason that the Rio Grande kept them was because they just didn't upgrade the bottom end of the Ouray branch. So.
Okay. Yeah, I think I've seen some on East Coast Road, some of the older ones there. Heath wants to know how a locomotive cannot get caught in the rail. It's basically the points, correct me, Dan, if I'm wrong, but the stubs don't line up, correct?
Correct. Yep.
Yeah. So it's the same problem, but personified,
Correct. Yep. It's just instead of points, you got 2 rails that slide over to match the other rails in the turnout.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Are you going to be bringing any of those to the modelers retreat? Are you going to be able to make it? I know you had a wonderful narrow gauge display a few years ago.
Yep, I'm planning to bring hang on. This section of the layout right here, which is where the depot will eventually be for Ouray, which will be right here. This is the section I'm planning to bring to the modelers retreat. Hopefully the plan is to have most of the track in place by then. I don't know if I'll get the depot started or not by then, but that's my plan. Then bring some rolling stock and a couple locomotives too.
But everyone should know, as a young man, so you're building your layout modular.
Yep.
Because you've learned from us old guys that you're eventually going to move, right?
Yes.
You don't have to take the sawzall to it.
Yep.
And things like that.
Cool. If you look at the underneath here. You see, it's literally just held together by carriage bolts, each of the 4 sections, and then with wing nuts on the other side. So
very nice.
Easily comes apart.
It's not like a Fremo. It's just a layout that's modular pieces.
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Very good. Very good. Hey, one more thing while we got here. Can you talk a little bit about the narrow gauge national convention?
Sure.
Here in the cities?
Yeah. So every year there's a national narrow gauge convention, and we got a group in the Twin Cities called the Twin Cities Narrow Gaugers, and it's a group of Twin Cities modelers who are narrow gauge modelers. And we successfully put in a bid at the Seattle convention this past year to host the narrow gauge convention once again in 2026. The last narrow gauge convention here was in 2018. And so we're looking very much forward to having the convention back in 2026. So
That's pretty cool. No one ever thinks the Twin Cities is a hotbed of narrow gauge modeling, but
no, it's
How many
actually
layouts would you
surprising
say-
once you find out about that, you know.
so everybody kind of keeps Ken Zeska. So we got the narrow gauge guys. Borowski's got his little N scale mafia. You've got the S scale, both of the S scale guys.
Is that narrow gauge? Is that all HON3 or is it different scales? Narrow gauge.
Various different scales. We got guys modeling HON3, SN3, ON3. Yeah, we got almost every narrow gauge scale under the sun represented in this general area here.
Oh, that's good.
How many layouts you think in the Twin Cities are dedicated to the narrow gauge?
Dedicated to narrow gauge, I would say. Oh, it's at least a dozen. Yeah.
Wow.
That's amazing.
Yep.
And their
There's a lot
operation
of-
layouts are going to be?
I know one is definitely. I know a couple that are definitely going to be. Both of them are currently in construction. Mine being one, but
There's a lot of layouts in the Twin Cities that people don't even know about. It'd be nice to see a whole list of everybody that's got a layout in their basement of some kind or another, just to see what's all out there.
yes,
That would be.
Ken Zeska, I think he's volunteering there for something.
I appreciate that. It sounds like we have a new layout coordinator, and I'm really pleased to have that on board. But one of the things about the narrow gauge convention, and you'll recall this last year, it was the NMRA was a sponsor on that, and I'm sure we will again. So it's all part of the NMRA trying to be part of the big community.
I'm just curious, is like G scale part of the NMRA too, or is that like a whole different ball game?
Sure, of course they are. Even Lego.
Could you never see any G scale kind of people ever talk? I mean, you see them at the shows. I know a couple of the people that do that, but you never really see them on like chats and stuff like that type of stuff.
There are some amazing large scale live streams. I'm trying to remember the one I watched the other day. Maybe Heath, if Heath is still on, or Roy, they could probably tell me. And they had like their G scale GP60s, and they were turning them over and showing how they're changing the axles because they were Bachmann, so of course the gears were breaking. But they're doing this on these huge engines that were like prototypically detailed. These Southern Pacific Jeep 60s and Jeep 40s, and it was just huge. I'm trying to remember. I think I watched it for an hour, but they're out there, and I think the NMRA with G scales because the track is the same, Ken, but the scales change. So it's kind of hard to have a standard or something when somebody calls it 122nd, the next guy calls it 124th. I may be way off from that. But I know some G scalers who are NMRA members.
Okay.
But that's kind of an interesting thing. I think Ken Zeska probably sees that a lot with S scale and then the 164th, right?
That's true. You have S scalers, S high railers, S flyer operators, and the same thing. You have people that use that track gauge and call it standard, and people that call it narrow gauge. So you end up with G and F and all sorts of other scales using the same gauge. So, but there are standards for those different things. And when you go to the big shows, you see people with those layouts. I believe that most of the large scale layouts like that end up being outdoors because it's pretty hard to fit that into a basement.
Yeah.
So.
I know. I don't know if does the Twin Cities have a garden rail? What is it, Greg? A society?
Yes.
They never have clubs. They always have societies. So I couldn't be in it. I don't know.
Right.
They have a pretty large garden railroad group here, the Minnesota Garden Railroad Association, or whatever they call it. And they've got
Society.
30 railroads or members. And I went on a tour once just, and to answer William Sampson, yeah, that's my nephew, Tim Hamilton, an M scaler. So yeah, so there's a big garden railroad group here in the metro area.
Yeah, well, I see him.
I see him at like train
State Fair.
Yeah, they're at different train shows and stuff. Yeah.
But I don't know if they operate or anything like that.
Yeah.
Not that I'm aware of.
It's quite different. It'd be fun. It's huge, but like I said, I've seen some. I'll have to ask Keith, and I'll put some links on there to some of the model railroad YouTubers that talk about the large scales and things like that. So
Yeah, I've seen videos of one layout. I think it's in Southern Illinois. It's a G scale one, and the guy must have acres and acres at his house. He's got a layout in his basement, and it goes through the side of the house, and it goes out for seems like miles on his property. G scale. They're out there with. I mean, it looks like it's a park setting. It's just beautiful. He's got bridges and creeks and stuff, and the guys are running for hours out there pulling 40, 50, 60 car G scale trains, and they got radios, and send out another crew. I'm hungry. I got to go to lunch and stuff. It's just a huge deal, but you don't see a lot of that here in town, except at the shows where they got it set up on the floor somewhere.
Yeah, I would get a kick out of it. Mr. Pictovid. If you go on YouTube and you see Mr. Pictovid, it's not your usual fare of the Garden Railway. They have beautiful running trains that are prototypical in scale. I think they buy I don't know who makes the big G-scale engines, but I've watched their videos and been thoroughly entertained on how to maintain, G-scale engines with the batteries and everything like that. They talk about the wheels, replacing the wheels. I'm like, sounds familiar, And, I think everybody enjoys other scales, but I don't know what it is about the hobby where if you're in a scale or narrow gauge, that water seeks its own level, right? I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, USA Trains, that's the one. Yeah,
I just wanted to say that Minnesota Garden Railway Society is a big enough group. One day when I was firing up in Duluth on the steam engine up there, they did charter the car, DM&IR car Northwind on a trip one time, just that group.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you think of the numbers. And then you think about the St. Croix live steamers.
Yeah, that's kind of neat too to see that stuff.
Yep, I'm a part of that group too, as you know, Tom.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I know you built that engine.
I built that engine, and I've got a 1-inch scale 462 as well. So.
Wow.
Yep.
I think, like I said, Ken Borowski, if we did layouts, within 50 miles of ground zero of the Twin Cities, we might be approaching three digits.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But it's just we don't know who has layouts. It's super secret. And, we have a wonderful of riches. So join the Twin Cities division and come see all of this stuff. All right. Does anyone else have anything to add? Oh yeah, Bob Brevard has a comment on there. No one else in chat wants to hop up for a couple seconds. Dan, I'm going to drop you down. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. We'll look forward to seeing narrow gauge at the Modelers Retreat.
Sure.
And if you can talk somebody into building a dual gauge switch, because I've always wanted to try it. So.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Dan.
Yep.
All right. Randy, we lost Randy freaking. You guys got anything else to add here, or?
Yeah, we've been losing Randy on a regular basis. Like he says, he's got a faulty internet connection down there, so he's on and off all the time. So,
is anybody?
Go ahead. Nope. Okay. I believe there's also a flea market here in the Twin Cities this weekend up at Century College.
Yep.
Oh, is that this weekend?
Yep.
Who runs
So
that?
I was just curious if anybody's going to that.
Who runs that?
don't know. Not
I've
sure.
never been to it, but I'm gonna head over there tomorrow and check it out. It's something I've never been to, so see what it's like.
A lot of Lionel, a lot of large scale.
Yep.
So, I'm gonna go move red dirt on Russ Nyquist's layout. So, but
Well, I'm jealous because that is a fun layout to operate. That is.
and I was gonna ask Ken Borowski, how did Greg Dahl do as a dispatcher? How many head-to-head meets did you have? When he was
A lot of busy signals on the new phone system. I don't know what the deal was, but no, everything went very, very good. He did really good. So
That's right. You had your new phone system.
yeah, the phone system worked good. So I think it was a good choice. I'm going to stick with it, and I like it better than the radios because it's just one less thing you got to carry around with you when you're an operator.
Were there so no radios at all?
No, we didn't use any at the last session. No, so we just wanted to try the phones, and the phones worked good. So yeah, I was happy to see that.
Okay.
Speaking of that, Ken, if you get a minute, would you send me a copy of that paper you use for? And I forgot what you called it. You don't issue orders, but the engineer or the crew has that paper, and they can write down their orders and take notes. I thought that was really neat.
Yeah, I call it just a clearance form, which
Okay.
I don't know if that's a real term or not, but that's what I named it. And it's basically just a piece of paper that's the same size as the operating instructions that my crews would get. So it's easy to carry because it's the same size. And it's got basically your train information at the top, what train you are, what track you're on, how many cars you got, and things like that, what your power and caboose is. And then at the bottom, it's just almost just like a notepad. It kind of serves the same deal as a track warrant, but you're not kind of checking the boxes and filling things out. You're just using it as more as a notepad.
Yeah, I thought that was really neat because you can, as you're instructing people, you can write that. They can write that down because then when they screw up and don't do it, they can't tell you that you didn't tell them.
That's so when the dispatcher says, "I told you this," and then you say, "Oh no, you didn't," because I wrote it down. You can go up and talk to Greg and say, "See what I wrote down?" And
yeah.
No, everything went good. He did a great job, and
he did.
Yeah, so it was a fun deal. So
yep.
Yeah, you have a waiting list of people who want to get over there. I know Dan Dosa and a couple other people.
Yeah, the problem, well, I wouldn't say the problem is, but like we were talking, that there's so many layouts in this town, and a lot of people have their own little operating groups. And like you say, one guy's like, "Hey, I'd love to come over and operate." I'm like, "Okay, well, how about Thursday?" Well, no, that's John's night. Well, how about Friday? Well, no, that's Dave's night. Well, how about Saturday? Well, that's Bill's morning. And there needs to be a master calendar of who runs on what days, so you can pick a day and invite some of these guys that want to come over. Which is why us N-scale guys stick together, because we know who's got what going on. But I like to get more guys mixed into that group, because there's a lot of nice N-scale layouts around here too. So
I think we're at the point where there's enough operators that you aren't going to get everybody, but you could certainly double book and fill 2 or 3 railroads. And that's kind of what we're trying to do with the operators retreat, is make it so you get to see 2 different railroads in one day, and make sure you tell that. We always tell people your number one job as an operator on our retreat is to get invited back. So, that's the key. So
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that because, like I said, I think my layout's going to be one of the operating layouts. So it's always fun to have new people over and
yep,
check it out, or guys that want to get into operations that I know that don't really do it too much, because there's a few guys I know that like to model and do things, but they don't really operate because they're kind of leery. They're kind of hard to, scared to take that first step and go over to a stranger's house and
right,
say, I don't know anything about nothing. What can I do that's not going to screw things up? And it's like,
exactly.
well, that's a big thing for somebody just getting started, going to a new layout.
Yeah. And like William mentions, if they want to run your layout instead of going to the same place they've been for the last 20 years, skip it, because I think every layout owner has an extra board,
Yep,
and that's how I get on these layouts, that these layout owners have been kind enough and patient enough with me with my crazy schedule to, hey, can you make this one? And I'm like, no, but keep me on the list, please,
yep,
Well, then you got the groups too, because you got like your people that are still, working the 9-to-5 jobs that, have their weekends that they can do that
Really?
on it. And then
So
you got the
sad.
guys that are retired that like to operate on, mornings and stuff during the week. So it's, you got to kind of pick and choose your day and which group of people. And so it's kind of it gets to be kind of not a mess, but you got to kind of think it through here when you're going to do on what day and what time. And
So John brings this up, and that's why we have, it's not a website, it's on Facebook. We have the Twin Cities Layout Operators, I believe it's called. And everybody was all excited to join. And some people, Joe Binish and some others, have posted sessions. And it's been kind of lacking. I won't talk too bad about it, but we can do that on that page. We specifically created that page on Facebook, or that group. So
Okay.
if you want to open up, say, I've got a session on the 20th. It starts at 9. First 6 guys sign up.
yep,
Okay, well, that's good to know that you can do that on there, because I wasn't really sure, because I just joined that about, I don't know, 2 months ago or whatever. So
Yeah.
good to know you can post on there.
Post away. Post pictures of your session and saying, this was fun. Who wants to come next time?
yep. One of the reasons that didn't work out, we got really excited about it, and then there was some other little, and we got very excited about it before the 2020
Show
modelers
stuff.
meet,
Yeah.
and then like 2 days after the modelers meet, something went on that shut the world down.
Right. The showstopper, we call it.
Yep, yep. And so the layout, we've just never gotten that going again. But Ken, you bring up a good point. I think I'll do that. I'll just I'll say, hey, here's what I'm doing. Anybody want to come on over?
Yeah.
You know.
Go ahead, Greg.
I will make a counterpoint to all those arguments too, and maybe it's just me. And one thing I like about the operators retreat, where we have people sign up, and then we can. It also gives, from the point of view of a layout owner, a little bit the ability to ferret out some of these people. I mean, I don't mean to disparage anybody in particular, but just opening up the house and saying, let's have 5 guys come over I've never met before.
That's true too. Yeah.
A little wary of that is all.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, John, John's talking about wanting to stop by. John, you're past my house all the time. You never stop in to operate. What's up with that? Yeah.
I see John talking about Heath. Well, Heath is it's kind of an odd situation. New York City is surrounded by millions and millions of people, but the nearest layout's 2 hours away. Not many of us are going to go to Duluth to operate. Or if we go to Eau Claire, we're going to operate all 3 or 4 layouts that are there. So it is kind of odd. Although I don't know how long it takes to get from Greg Dahl's house to Milt Spanton's. Well, what's that all, Greg? Is that an hour?
It's closing in on an hour, but the balance is I can walk to Ken Borowski's house. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I
And I
didn't
can
realize
walk
that
to
we
Dan
were
Dos's.
all that close until we met in a basement somewhere. And hey, where do you live? Oh, really? Where do you live? Oh, really?
Yeah.
So yeah, we're just a few blocks away from each other. Never knew we even lived in the same part of town. So
no.
Yeah. And that's what it is. There's the west side. I'm looking at Dave Hamilton, Ken, Joe, Voss, Lester. There's a whole, like on the west side of town, then the east side, Ed Petrie and that whole crew. So yeah, we haven't seen Greg's rabbit in a long time.
He's a good judge of character when Joe comes over.
Walk 20 minutes. I don't know about walking 20 minutes. Time to get an Uber or something. But yeah, it's almost like where Heath lives, it's to join one of the big clubs just to make a day of it, that you can just go run trains and things like that. So it's interesting. I mean, I think about the people in the Twin Cities or the Thousand Lakes region that live in the middle of nowhere. But I think the Twin Cities has to be up there with Kansas City for number of layouts. So.
Well, that North Metro Club is a really neat club, but it's almost an hour away from my house. So, you kind of got to pick and choose when you want to go up there, which is why when they want to host another op session, that'd be nice to do that. But it wouldn't be a club I would want to join because it's just too far away to go on a regular basis. So kind of all depends where you live too.
It is a distance thing, and I think it's what you value, whether you can get there or not. So, but I think all is good. And I like Greg. Maybe you could vet them. If people sign up, like, hey, tell me about you. How much have you operated? Who's this? The voucher system always works for me. So, I think we're just about done here. Been going about an hour and a half.
Yep.
And Randy and Ken B, if you don't mind, I'm going to drop you out. We're going to talk about our fellow podcaster we lost. So thanks, Ken Browski, for joining us.
Yep.
Randy, thanks for showing us. Hopefully you'll join us future Fridays. And maybe one of these Fridays we can do live from the clinch field.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
That'd be fun to do. We could set that up real easy. That would be fun. So.
Wow. Yeah, I agree.
All right. Thank you, guys.
All right. See you guys.
Yeah. So the four of us are on the Crossing Gate podcast. And we lost one of our members this week. We lost Larry Eggerine. He passed away on the 30th. And we're going to do a tribute to him, not tonight. We've all been too busy to put together anything decent. William has volunteered with me to put together a podcast, some of the best sound bits, host shows. What do you guys remember about Larry? Just say a little bit now. Greg, didn't he helped you out, right?
Well, I had the two things that strike me about Larry is I had some problems with my duplex, my Digitrax, and he not only just sometimes people just give you a super, well, I did this, try this, and I was trying obviously everything, and Larry, would really dig it. He was personally invested in the issue. I felt, right. He would, I'd say, yeah, I did that. And he's like, well, what about this? It's like, oh, I'll go try that. And of course I'd, email him back, a day later and be like, no, that's not the problem. And it was almost like he was trying to solve the problem more than I was. It was amazing. It just wasn't a superficial interest in my problem. He really wanted to solve it. And the other thing that just sort of that struck me as really odd is, somebody had posted that very day that I find out about Larry's passing. Somebody had posted, I need a glue to glue this, or this roof. And I said, well, I've been using this glue to glue to the roofs of that downtown deco building, like Tom had done. And it's a water-based super glue. It's fantastic. And he goes, oh, that's a great idea. It's like, well, it's not my idea. Larry's the one who turned me on to it. And I had linked Larry in the thing, and then I find out about an hour later that he had passed away. It's like, so he always had fantastic ideas. And if he gave you some advice, it was always well worth following.
Yeah. Well, I'll think back to all he helped us with and stuff. And Dave, you knew him too a little bit. What did you think about Larry?
Well, I felt like I was just getting to know him actually, and I was pretty impressed with his electronic knowledge when he was talking about the Arduinos, especially because that seemed to be his specialty, and the things that he knew about it. And then he was getting into those little sound modules, etc. And I know I was pretty freaked out when you sent that message out that he passed away. I was actually hoping that he was going to surprise us all and show up for the TLR convention in May, because I thought he'd get a real kick out of coming up here and meeting us, and getting a chance to show him around. So it's fate has a strange way of working, I guess. So I think we're all gonna miss his voice and some of his remarks. That's for sure.
Yeah, he always had great ideas and thoughts and stuff like that. Ken, you want to say something? Or?
Yeah, he was one of those guys that just bubbled energy and bubbled friendship. And it was always fun to listen to him. Sometimes crazy things when it was cool up here. He'd open up his garage door just to let in some warm air down there where he is to make us feel bad. Tell us about the Schnoss's brothers and gave us a reason to drink when he'd tell about Arduinos. I always appreciated that for him. But the thing is, he knew more than most of us would ever dare think we'd learn about electronics, and he always shared it in a way that made it sound less intimidating. Oh yeah, you can buy this big expensive thing, but here's an inexpensive way to get at it. So a fun guy to have known, and gone too soon.
Yeah, that's way too soon and too sudden and things like that. So I'm not going to say much because I'll lose it here. Larry and I talked all the time. The podcast sometime would end and we'd talk. I've got recordings of us going for 45 minutes. But the Split Rock runs as well as it does. I owe it to Larry, as well as all you guys helping me. We would always talk about trains, but it would go to family and our wives and our kids and military. And we never brought up any of our differences politically or religiously or anything like that. It was always just fun. We always cared for each other. We did a lot of face live times, so I could show them my screen. If you know me, I need patience. Heath is one's been showing me great patience, and the rest of you guys. Larry was always patient with me, as he knew I was a caveman with electronics, and I'd have to get my phone out and hold it up to the screen or send him screenshots, and he's like, push that button, put F12 to this, and things would magically happen. And I was like, Dave, I wanted to see him in Texas. He was so good to me. And the president of the NMRA, Gordy, calls me. And he says, I need a guy to do this who knows this and this and this about DC. You got a name? It was a millisecond and I spit out Larry's name. And Larry hated me ever since. No. But he went on to take that on. Just the ugliest of NMRA jobs is the standards job, what the NMRAs are for. How would you like to deal with all of DCC companies and tell them, this is the box we need you in? But he had a way with that. He had a way with words. One of the greatest electricians, the most mythical railway, the Schnoss's brothers. He got such a kick out of that. And he spent his retirement fixing other people's layouts. And we're going to miss him. So I think that's about all for me. I think we'll sign off. I want to thank everybody for showing up.
Yep.
And you guys stay warm. And we will see you next Friday.
Next Friday it is.
There you go.